Blessed are you, daughter, by the Most High God, above all women on earth. Your deed of hope will never be forgotten by those who tell of the might of God. Over 100 years ago, a tiny mountain village hidden in the Pyrenees was nothing more than an outdated castle used as a munition depot. And yet it was there that Our Lady appeared to a 14-year-old peasant girl, Marie Bernard Soubirous, commonly known to all of us as Bernadette. Since that day, Lourdes has risen from obscurity to become one of the centers of Christian devotion to what is perhaps the greatest Christian shrine to Our Lady. Thousands of pilgrims come every year from every part of the earth to seek physical cures and spiritual graces, or simply to give homage to the Mother of God. A journalist once asked a priest visiting Lourdes, "What's the greatest miracle of Lourdes?" And the priest answered without hesitation, "That's easy. It is, of course, the look of resignation on the faces of those who are not healed." Paulette Nordau is one of those faces. She was a young girl whose once pretty features were fast disappearing behind a hideous fungus-like growth that had already spread over 3/4 of her face. When she was interviewed by a journalist, she said, "Sir, I do not pray to be healed, because there was a sick lady in the compartment next to mine, and she was dying of tuberculosis. Now, at first, I did pray all the time for myself, but this little lady, I discovered, had many children to pray for she was their sole support, working in an orphanage." The journalist asked the young lady whether the widow had been cured, and the girl responded, "I don't know. I never saw her again. But I do know about myself. I feel that everything is all right with me since I visited that happy grotto and met that woman." Now, if Paulette's story were rare, it would be edifying, but not particularly significant. The fact of the matter is, however, that her story is not rare. For this amazing resignation to the will of God, this joy and peace and feeling of compassion and beneficence is more popularly a part of the atmosphere of Lourdes than even the cures are. To those of us who have faith in the power of God and the all-powerful intercession of the Blessed Mother, the authenticated cases of healing lungs and recreated bones are certainly marvels. But in the long run, all these transformations of the bodies do not astound us half so much as the changes that take place, with few exceptions, in the minds and the hearts of so many people who go to Lourdes. So what's the secret behind this never-ending miracle? It's the power of God, of course, working through the intercession of the Blessed Virgin. There's no mystery about that as far as we are concerned. But there is a further question which opens the doors to some interesting speculation. Just what does God do to the individual soul to lift it so completely out of the narrow streets of its own particular interests and send it hurrying off to be solicitous and caring about others? Well, no one can say for certain. No one can say that the answer is the same in all instances. But it seems to me that in some cases at least, God brings about this wonderful result by a new and startling growth of charity in the souls of individual people. For instance, a bedridden lawyer from Paris said that his change of heart, it was difficult to explain. Here he was at the grotto of Lourdes, Paul Galland, a doctor of law, a diplomat of social sciences, a junior partner of a thriving law firm, married and the proud father of a baby boy, and a hopeless cripple. During his visit to Lourdes, with hundreds of sick and afflicted each day, he began to observe the patience of the nurses and the doctors and the stretcher bearers. He noted the considerations of the patients one for another. In the back of his mind, no thought had been so frequent as that of the charity that he witnessed. At Lourdes, Paul Galland learned that if there is no conformity to the will of God, there is no love. Not my will, but thine be done. So Mary's message for Paul Galland is a message of confidence. She herself has followed the lead of her divine Son to glory, and like Christ, she knows over how many bridges of sorrow the road of love runs. At least Paul thinks that she, like her divine Son, is far too high above him for encouragement. She reminds him of what she did for little Bernadette herself. No potter ever began with less promising clay than Bernadette, destitute, uneducated, tubercular. Yet she learned to love God with her whole heart and her whole soul and her whole mind and all her strength.